Now, you may ask, why is this problem so prevalent? Now that we've established that it's not so easy as saying, oh, yeah, it's a Catholic problem, or oh, it's a Protestant problem, or oh, it's a Hollywood problem. Now that we've established that and we see how prevalent it is, it creates a whole new, it creates a whole new mystery of it, a very disturbing one, where we say, how is this so common in our culture? How is this going on everywhere? Well, we know that at root, as Christians, we know that this goes back to the fall of man. We are a fallen species. And so these sins have always existed ever since the fall of man, and they always will. But we can ask ourselves, have they always been this common? Has it always been the case that every institution in American culture is riddled with abuse, molestation, rape, etc.? Has that always been the case? I guess there's no way to know for sure. It's hard. You can't really look back into the past and quantify these sorts of problems, especially by the nature of the problem. Means people doing it are not going to exactly be keeping records of what they did. So it's hard to know exactly, but it certainly seems like it's worse now. I would like to think that anyway. I'd hate to think that it's just always been this way forever, that it's always been this bad forever, because if that's the case, then you really think, well, it'll never get better. It's like there's no point in even trying to make it better, because apparently it can never be better. But I don't think that's the case. I do think it appears to be worse now than in the past, and I think that it is. And I think that goes back to a general moral breakdown in our culture and a kind of moral indifference, a breakdown of empathy, which has led to this moral indifference. And when you've got a breakdown in the kind of moral code, and then you have perversion, debauchery, hedonism that becomes more prevalent, and at the same time, people are becoming desensitized and indifferent and less able to see and recognize the dignity in their fellow man. And often these things happen at the same time, but as they happen and as they get worse, I think, of course, you're going to see more of this. And when you read about these horrible cases in any of these institutions, but talking specifically about the Catholic Church, you read about some of these things that these priests were doing. You see not only that are these depraved perverts, but also they just simply do not recognize the humanity of anyone other than themselves. And so they can look at children and see nothing but objects to be used for their pleasure. And I think we see that more and more in our culture, where we look at each other, even people who aren't child molesters. I still think there is this tendency among a lot of people to see other people as just objects, as not as human beings, but as objects, to be used, to be exploited, to be tossed to the side, whatever. And all of that, I think, leads us here. And if there is going to be any improvement, then we all have to look immediately around ourselves, within our own ranks, and start there, and then work out from there.